Hey everybody, I'm Hugh Brownstone for Three Blind Men and an Elephant. It's a strange day, but let's talk. And let's start here. Apple's iPhone, in spite of protestations from any number of quarters, has been a serious camera option for years. When it comes to photography, serious enough to gut the point-and-shoot market beginning all the way back in 2008. More recently, serious enough to encroach upon entry-level DSLRs, even entry-level mirrorless cameras. Serious enough for me to capture, personally, images like this. When it comes to videography, not so much. But this has changed in the last 3 years or so, too, with smartphones capable of handheld footage like this, captured by Claudia as she walked backwards for 40 minutes through Soho. Those of you who know us are familiar with this footage. I find that today's cameras get in the way. Wow. That is a hunk of meat.
So.
Let's go in.
Hi, guys.
No, two hands. One for this hand, one for this hand.
Now, less than 72 hours until the next Apple event, the web is brimming to the point of bursting over about what the iPhone 13 will be. There are even videos out there about next year's iPhone 14. But I'm not going to get into any of that because I don't think I'd be adding any value. Instead, let's assume all of those rumors are true, the way an economist on a deserted island planning his escape might assume a lifeboat, so that we can focus on the more important question, that is, if they are true, so what? In particular, I want to explore this question from the perspective of a vlogger or street photographer, because I am both. Let's begin with video portrait mode, because this is a holy grail kind of thing for vloggers, the most interesting of all the rumors. How good will it be, really? Will the video bokeh effect be better than what you see on Skype, Zoom, my iPhone 11 Pro with Focus Live, and iPhone 12 Pro with ProTake? Is the effect available in 4K? Up to what frame rate? Is it available in ProRes RAW? Is there a recording limit? And if so, what is it? Is the autofocus and bokeh switching as good, say, as Sony's ZV-1 product showcase mode? Which means, does it not only blur the background, but shift focus seamlessly between background and foreground when showing one's viewers something up close, like, well, this? Is what the iPhone 13 can do accessible and usable? Now, you'd think the answer is of course, because this is an Apple core competence. See how I snuck that in there? But it's a little different this time out, because the question is not about software. It's about hardware. Is any of this capability, for example, available on the front camera? If not, can video recorded by the rear cameras be monitored and controlled from an Apple Watch better than Filmic Pro Remote does it? But even if the answers to all of these questions are yes, how much does it matter anyway? The bottom line for vloggers, because I really want to keep this short, I think, is this. If the bokeh effect is available at a high enough resolution, call it 4K, Frame rate, call it 60p. With sufficient autofocus performance, call it ZV1-ish. And recording time, call it 30 minutes. And is accessible directly by the front camera or by the cameras via remote control. This will be reason enough for many vloggers to buy it. The iPhone 13, at that point, a technological tour de force that ought to strike fear into the hearts of dedicated camera manufacturers everywhere. Otherwise, unless you have a dedicated camera op, video portrait mode will be pretty much irrelevant for vloggers. But consider the possibility that it may be irrelevant for vloggers anyway, by considering whether or not arguably the most successful vlogger of all time, Casey Neistat, very nice guy by the way, used shallow depth of field at all. For the most part, he did not, relying instead on wide-angle lenses with inherently great depth of field. Just saying, though, I personally don't vlog the way he does and do think it would be compelling for the way I shoot, which is, this. As for ProRes RAW and better low-light performance for vloggers, if one is vlogging indoors, where one can control the scene, therefore lighting and dynamic range, ProRes RAW and better low-light performance are also irrelevant. Although, if you're vlogging indoors at a dimly lit live event, say a club or outdoors where there is tremendous variation in light and therefore dynamic range, the questions then become, which ProRes RAW, what bit depth, what chroma sampling, what bit rate, how much better low light performance? Could you make yourself heard over the din in a club anyway, or would you want to? Do you actually want to film there? And once again, using our Casey Neistat measurement tool, did he need any of that to do what he did anyway? No, he did not. Which is not to suggest that there aren't many other ways to vlog than like Casey Neistat, of course. Still, the harsh reality is that vloggers have made do without ProRes of any kind for years, relying on H.264, no log necessary, let alone RAW. As they have with nothing more than a simple LED light with some form of diffusion, allowing them to record as close to base ISO as possible. I just don't see any of this being critically important for 99% of vloggers, 99% of the time. On the other hand, knowing how to light, knowing how to craft a narrative, these are things that are important to 100% of vloggers, 100% of the time. The new rear-facing wide-angle lens and sensor unit, though overdue, won't matter much to vloggers either because most vloggers using an iPhone use the front camera. Or they don't use an iPhone and use a flippy screen instead. But what about for the 1% of us camping out under the stars of the American Southwest, surveying the lush foothills of Tuscany during golden hour, or prowling the streets of New York sometime between blue hour and dawn 1% of the time? Will these things matter? Absolutely. Maybe. What I think is unarguable is that the trajectory of computational imaging inside smartphones is so steep and compelling. Video bokeh, such a harbinger of things to come, an indication of giant strides in processing power, algorithms, and heat management, that while it may not be this year, it's only a matter of time, not that far off, before the smartphone does to all dedicated cameras what the 1925 Leica did to almost every other format, relegate the few that remain to the status of niche products even within the professional ranks. I don't think the net impact of the rumored updates to the iPhone 13 will be all that different for photographers either, especially street photographers, but could be. That's because, A, true enough, while the wide-angle lens offers an interesting field of view, it has been a terribly weak link since my iPhone 11 Pro. On the other hand, while I have been waiting for a significant upgrade, I've simply chosen not to use that field of view at all, neither with my iPhone nor my dedicated camera kit, which I've not felt the need to augment with a comparable field of view. And B, while I enjoy shooting more and more at night, low light performance when not able to combine images via long exposure has been poor on the iPhone relative to our dedicated cameras, and I just don't see that changing dramatically this coming Tuesday. Of course, we'll learn soon enough. If I'm wrong because, hey, I have been wrong before and I will be wrong again, well, yay. I may buy an iPhone 13 myself. But if I'm not, perhaps the real point of this video, if I'm honest with myself, the strangeness to which I alluded at the beginning, and let's end here, is this. We've had so many much more important things to consider recently. So many other things to which we could apply ourselves and be better served in the process. You know, things like vaccination rates, infectivity rates, lethality rates, and variants. Anti-vaxxers, anti-maskers, climate change, the cost of perpetual war. The devolution of an entire political party into a morally and intellectually bankrupt, anti-democratic, anti-science, anti-woman, racist, fascist cluster. Or quiet reflection upon that moment, seared into my brain like it was for so many of us 20 years ago today, when we saw in real time on our TV screens that second plane plow into the other tower, less than 3 miles as the crow flies from the Statue of Liberty, and wondered, where do we go from here? Yeah, we might want to devote a few more cycles to those kinds of things instead of the width of a notch or the depth of a camera bump.